Hello everyone, GM. Welcome back to another episode of Overpriced JPEGs. It is time for your weekly Friday recap. Joining me today to talk all things happening in the world of NFTs is the one and only Nick Adler. He is the co-founder of Mintage, which we are going to talk about later in the show today. It is minting today as we record this, Thursday, February 9th, so we'll talk about what's going on there. You may also know him, I'm going to get the name of this space right, from he's the host of Fashion FUD and The Future, the Twitter space, and is a veteran of the music industry, has worked with Snoop Dogg in particular for years. You may know him through that. Nick, welcome to the show.
GM, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
GM. So in addition to talking about Mintage on today's episode, we're going to do some quick hits, dive into some of the stuff that's happening around checks, give our thoughts. I'd love to get like overpriced, underpriced. What do you think of checks? We'll talk about some stuff happening over at Proof and with Kevin broadly. And then, of course, I mean, the big story, we got to talk Bitcoin Ordinals. Very curious to get your thoughts on Ordinals. I've got some thoughts. Before we get into all of that, we do need to hear a word from our lovely sponsor, Ledger. Do y'all realize what's happening over at Ledger? That the #1 leader in digital asset security has teamed up with Tony Fadell, builder of the iPod, to revolutionize the experience of owning digital assets securely. They're doing this with Ledger STAX. This is the most premium product to date, and it's so user-friendly. Ledger STAX is a palm-sized device with a new e-Ink 2 display on the cover and around the spine, meaning you can view and confirm transactions at a glance. You can also customize your ledger by displaying your favorite NFT on the cover, even when the device is off. Pair your new Ledger STAX with your Ledger Live to manage, earn, and hodl all your NFTs and over 500 coins. This space needs sleek user experiences, our iPod moment, and that's what Ledger has set out to do here without compromising their core promise of security. Keep your digital assets in the safest place they can be, a Ledger STAX wallet. Trust yourself with Ledger STAX and go to shop.ledger.com to pre-order your Ledger STAX now. They're shipping in April. And if you use the link in our show notes to pre-order now, you'll be helping the show as well. Thank you. Nick, hello. Welcome to Overpriced JPEGs.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. This is overdue. We've been talking about it for a while, so I actually am really excited to be on the show.
I bailed on you, I think, last time.
No, listen, I'm a fan first.
Okay.
I'm a fan.
I appreciate that.
I'm a fan.
I
discovered you one day when I was traveling, and I was in the gym, and I was like, I got to listen to something. You got to change it up sometimes. And then I found your show, and I was listening. It was you, Kevin Rose, and Derek Edwards. I think I learned through them. I don't know how I connected, but I definitely got red pilled, so I'm a fan.
Well, thank you so much. I have a couple of housekeeping items for the OPJ audience. Not just housekeeping, actually. I've got a pretty fun announcement I'm excited to make, speaking of one Mr. Kevin Rose. And then we'll dive into the episode. So a couple things I mentioned on last week's show. We are doing some hiring. We had a bunch of people email us at the ops@overpricedjpegs.com email address. I have not gotten back to folks yet. I'm sorry. We are a little bit underwater here at Overpriced JPEGs. It's all good. I was saying to Nick before the show, it feels like we're in that stage of the company where things get you're getting cleaner and you're getting things cleaned up, but it gets messier before it gets cleaner. So I'm a little behind on things. If you emailed us, thank you so much. I will get back to you. Just give me a little time. The other thing is I've got an OPJ tour update. If you're an OPJ NFT holder, you're getting access to these live events that we are hosting, or at least you'll have the option to come to a few of the live events we are hosting. And we have a guest announcement. We're going to be doing an event in LA on May 15th. We are having 2 guests join us on stage for that live event. We are only announcing one here today. The first guest we are announcing is Kevin Rose. So very excited to have Kevin joining us on tour. He and I will sit down for an interview with somebody else, 45 minutes or so, open it up to audience questions, and then we'll all hang and mingle and have some cocktails, and it'll be super fun in LA, May 15th. More details in terms of timing, venues, et cetera, to be announced, but excited and grateful for Kevin for joining us there. Okay, with that out of the way, Nick, let's talk market. How are you feeling about the market right now? I know you're in building mode and you've got a company, but are you participating? What's your vibes?
Yeah, I mean, I'm day to day. I feel good right now. I mean, I feel like the energy is coming back, and I feel like you're starting to see some real movement around some new projects, some of the old projects be revived. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about different chain stuff happening, so that's exciting. I'm catching waves of momentum and excitement, and then I try not to get overly excited because then there's always like a little bit of a lull. I will say building a project right now is really exciting. It felt, especially when we started, which was, in the middle of the bear, like the top of the bear actually. And it just felt good to build because it was quiet. And when we released our first mint, it was like, we were the only ones out there. And now you're starting to see it heat up again. Like there's just daily drops, so it's frothy. I like it, but I'm not getting too, hooked. I'm kind of playing it from the sideline a little bit.
I know I don't want too much of a fire hose. I'm like, I remember those days where, as a content person, I could not keep up. And again, we've got changes on the business side. So I'm like, oh no, like I can't keep up with anything. I'm trying to run a business and keep up with everything. And it's hard now. It's starting to get hard again, a little bit.
I mean, look, this just between the Yuga stuff, the sewer pass, between the rug radio stuff, between the checks, between the ordinals, like it's there's already a lot. And then there's all these other products happening. So I'm just trying to keep up.
Trying to keep our heads above water. I agree, but you know what? We will take it. It's fun. It's fun to feel like it's coming back. I mean, I think what will feel really exciting, and of course, what kicked off the last wave is like feeling like there's a pickup also in adoption. And I want to say a couple words on that at the end of the show. I was saying to you at the beginning, like I had quite the morning of like, oh my God, the UX sucks in this industry. Like, this is why we don't have mass adoption. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I feel like right now the energy is picking back up, but it feels like it's kind of picking back up with the crew that's been here, as opposed to feeling like there's a whole new wave coming in, which that will be, I think, when I'm really excited, but it's awesome. It's awesome to see that things are happening. So let's go through some of the quick hits here. I've been talking about the OE meta now for several weeks in a row. It sort of continues, though. Really, I think it's like checks that has continued to be relevant. A couple interesting things here. That Jack is like refreshing metadata is sort of an interesting thing, and he made some interesting comments about how like. It's sort of a commentary on the fact that the NFT is the smart contract and the NFT is not the art itself. And there's sort of this interesting lesson for folks around that. And that if you bought a checks, you are in the checks network. And that is denoted by virtue of the fact that you have this NFT, not necessarily by you have this particular piece of checks artwork or something. So that's interesting. And then you had this derivative checks project came out that I think sold more. It did like $900,000 in volume in the first XYZ,
right,
and
the
which is
Vincent
like more
Van
than
Gogh.
checks.
Yeah, the Pepes.
Yes. Oh, yes. The what do you think of all this?
So, okay, to speak broadly to OEs, to open editions, it came in like having been part of that first run of open editions, and then to see it kind of slow down, and then just hear inklings of it. And I participated, whether it was like Mad Dog Jones, I bought his open edition, and thank
that
you.
That early like Nifty Gateway, super rare, era.
the new one I just bought. The new all the artists of the one-on-one artists started dropping open editions, I jumped in. So I bought like
Did Mad Dog Jones do one? I didn't realize he had done it. Oh no,
it's a
I
really
totally
good.
missed his.
Yeah, no, I'll post the link so you can check it out. But when he did one, and then you think UX, like all those artists who I kind of came up with and watched them grow in the space, like I just jumped into support. So that just felt great to sort of spend and support them again. And just, and you're not thinking so much about the value because the pricing that they came out with. That was exciting. It's like, I could spend $100, $50, maybe $200, and maybe it's going to go up, but I'm now part of art communities that I really aspire to be part of and I think are amazing. So that kind of trigger to me was like, okay, we're back. And then I'm starting to see some stuff in music open editions and all that. And then obviously, out of nowhere, because I didn't know Jack Butcher. Like I'm not I didn't follow his career path. He kind of to me came sort of out of nowhere. So it just sort of happened. And I just started to see the volume go up, and I started to see it climb towards 2 ETH and realize that there's some serious trading happening. And then when I really became aware, funny enough, was from the derivative project, the Pepe's project. And that's what kind of actually, I know it outperformed his initial drop, but it's actually kind of what triggered me, and I was like, oh wait, what's going on here? And that kind of caught me to look into, to the point you're saying, like changing the metadata, seeing what he did for Turkey and for the earthquake victims yesterday, and seeing Coinbase jump in and create a derivative of his, so the whole thing is really, really creative and very artistic, but also, to see a person like Jack Butcher, who I don't know, actually, I'm curious if you met him or you're going to have him on the show. I would like to, probably potentially get to know and understand more. But he's such a front-facing brand here, not doxed, and he's out there kind of like really championing his followers, and people are really supporting him. Yeah, he is doxed. I'm sorry, he is doxed. He's totally aware. You can totally see him, and he's out there, and these followers are championing him. I actually kind of had some fun on Twitter the other day. I threw up kind of a joke where I was, mid mint and mid launch, and I'm like, man, I wish I just created a check project. And people were like, and I was like, don't take it the wrong way. I was like, I think it's brilliant. You know what I mean? I wish I did it.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I'm still kind of learning how checks work. I'm not a holder, but I'm a fan at the end of the day.
Yeah. Do you know the mint mechanic and the chase for the holy single black check? Do you know how that works?
No, break it down. This is worth
dropping through. So his original, he had this burn mechanism that he put in place that was sort of Damien Hirstian. I keep saying using that as a verb now. Hirstian.
He even said it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and he gave that nod to Damien. So the idea is you can burn your original that everybody got, like your tier 1 that you got if you had one, for, is it a 64 check mural or an 80 check mural, something like that. Basically, and then if you burn, I think it's 80. And then if you burn 2 80 check pieces, you get a 40 check piece. And if you burn 2 40 check pieces, you get a 20 check piece, and so on and so on and so on. And nobody has done this yet. And somebody wrote a compelling thread as to why it's really probably not even feasible. But it could go all the way down to having a single check. You burn two check pieces, right? And you could end up with a single check piece.
Right.
That would be a single black check. And so that's sort of this mythic holy grail.
I saw a funny tweet that was like, if you'd minted 17 checks, you'd be worth $300 million or something. It was one of those kind of plays on if I'd have minted, I'd be worth this. But I'm following it. I feel like I have to really ape in, start to play the game to understand it more. But in terms of the marketing and kind of what he's done to build a narrative and to build his brand, I'm so super impressed with. I think they raised something last I checked, it was $150,000 for earthquake victims.
Charity.
Which if you can awesome. Leverage the space to do that, I mean, number one, it's positive. It brings good attention. It just shows that this world isn't all filled with scams and bad actors. So I love the attention that he's bringing.
Totally. They also POAP did something to commemorate this. They did 1,000 checks, commemorate this cultural moment in NFTs. And he leans into all of this. The derivative project came out, and then he changed the metadata or he basically changed it to look more like the derivative project. He's embracing everything that's coming out around this. I mean, this is what all of this is about, right? Is sort of playing with the tech and the art combined.
Exactly. I'm curious too, though, because I own a bunch of art blocks, and I'm a big fan of the Matt Kane Gazers project, and that that is something where the moons change over time, and I'm curious if there is a similar mechanic going on there to what he's doing here.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if he is. I don't think it's as formal as that. My sense is it's a lot more spontaneous rather than pre-planned. I'm pretty sure that's the case. He went on. Jack went on Proof. Either I think he was on their actual, just the full on 100 Proof podcast. But he also did something with Sam NFT Stats, who on their daily show, I think, unless it was also just Proof. I don't know. He went on Proof. So we can find out more information there. I've listened to parts of the episode. I haven't listened to the whole thing.
I'm going to get him on the Fashion Fund in future. I'm going to chase him down.
Love it. Yeah, you should. You got to
get him on your show.
I know. Well, I saw him on Proof, and I have this weird thing where I'm okay, there's coverage out there. Now I'm going to ask different questions, so it's dumb to treat it like I shouldn't have him on the show. Anyways, like I said, house is messier right now. It will be cleaner in a little bit.
It's all good.
Stick with us, OPJ listeners. The house is only getting cleaner from here in terms of just organizationally what we're making happen. Okay, well, while we're on the Proof stuff, let's talk Proof as part of this. Kind of at the top of the show here. Couple of different things. There's been some light drama, I guess, around the Proof Collector's Pass, which we can talk about. And also Kevin Rose gave away some art pieces. He basically tweeted out link your ETH handle, and then started airdropping people really nice pieces of art. I mean, some art blocks pieces in there. I think he maybe sent out an X copy. Maybe I'm making that up, but I was like, man, after this hack, this man still has art to be given away. Like,
yeah, no,
A, like that's awesome, Kevin, and I mean, B, that's awesome, Kevin. I mean, it was very sweet, but yeah, just joking a little bit, like, man just got hacked and now he's still giving away pieces. So
yeah. Do you know how you qualified to get the pieces, or did he just randomly?
I think it was like random. It was like moonbirds. I think you had to have a moonbird, and then you like in your profile picture maybe or something. It was some like moonbird thing.
I spent a bunch of time with Kevin on Spaces 2 weeks ago, and it was super informative, and he was really candid. It was really open, and I've been a fan of his before NFT. Like, I've followed his career since the Dig days, and I just think he's a real, he really is able to help find, emerging technologies like what they did with the upvote early on. Like, upvote is integrated into everything, we do on the internet. And I think, he continues to follow that path and do things. And he's done a lot of that for Web3 and for NFTs. I was listening to his first podcast, and that's how I learned about, Death Beef and Tyler Hobbs and all these, iconic Web3 artists. I learned through him and through his early collecting process. So his narrative and story has been amazing. And so when he launched Proof, I regret this. I was there on mint day, and I was like, oh, I don't know. What was it, 2 ETH? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Should I do it?
I think it was an ETH. I think it was even worse.
Right.
I think
it was
you
one
missed
ETH.
out on like an ETH. I think,
and I was going to do it, and then you saw it jump. And one thing that I really respect about Kevin is when I was talking to him last week, he said, he's like, when you do something and it goes up so high to 30 ETH, I don't know where it is today, but as high as the 30, maybe even more.
It's tanking
he's
now.
Like, yeah, but he's like, you have to, that's a really tough, that's a tough burden, right? Like, it's exciting and it brings a lot of liquidity, but all of a sudden, it's not the person from 1 to 30, it's the person who buys at 20 or 25, and the expectations 100%. Like, you got to keep, supporting my bag. So it's a really tough mechanic. I think it's going to be very difficult to constantly please those people. But I think at the end of the day, he's really thoughtful, and his team is really innovative. And, from just the research that they do, it's incredible. So I wouldn't bet against him. I'm a big supporter. And the fact that he got hacked a few weeks ago, Kevin Rose got hacked. That was like a shocker. Like, how does he get hacked? That this is a tough, if he gets phished, then we're all in a lot of trouble. But he even proved that through that phishing scam, he's able to kind of bounce back and do creative things to, like, he really at the end of the day protected his treasury of assets. It was his squiggles, which is very expensive collectively, but that was it. It didn't go beyond that. So it shows how, like, kind of smart he's been contained. And how crafty he's been. And I think he's making moves to build it all back. And, he even said, he's like, I'm so lucky. Like, I'm so lucky to be where I am. It's just a tough lesson to take.
Yeah. Yeah. And I should say, I should correct something we had said on this show when the hack first happened, that it was a social engineering thing, because that is what the first thread that came out about it on Twitter was. And when we recorded this about the hack, that was all we knew. Sam, again, NFT Stats, has since corrected me. It was like, it actually wasn't social engineering. I don't know the ins and outs of how the hack happened, but I'll correct ourselves here on OPJ. We were wrong to call it social engineering.
It was a pure phishing. It was a pure phishing scam. He clicked the link. Somebody sent him a link. He thought it was a Haymint or a pre-mint, one of the links, and he realized immediately once he'd approved the transaction
what he had done. Right. Yeah. So I'll give a little context, because you were starting to tease at this in terms of the 20 ETH, somebody who bought in at 20 ETH, and I have thoughts on this certainly. But so context, proof passes had always been a thing with a 3-year expiration date. When they were launched, it was, you're going to have access to this conference for 3 years, I guess, the conference was always a part of it. And just basically this community, there's an expiration date on it. And so the OGs have always known this. But there's always been this question, as Proof and Moonbirds and everything got so much bigger than where it started, was, will he extend those 3 years, right? Will it really only be a 3-year thing, or will this be able to continue? And I think a few weeks ago, Kevin had sort of put it out to the proof community, soliciting feedback and basically expressing that they were debating this. And I think there was a lot of negative sentiment from what I've heard sort of around, I don't know, people fudding, people frustrated, people this. Which probably partly made the proof team go, okay, well, this is more trouble than it's worth. Like, we have such a business we're trying to run here. Like, we're trying to do so many things. Like, and they basically announced that they are officially sunsetting the proof collective, essentially, or whatever those additional benefits are, after 3 years. I think we're a year and a half into that. And that has, of course, set off a cascade of selling and frustration and, you know, further FUD. I think the part of the challenge here is, again, the OGs understood this. People who minted that first time understood this, but it wasn't like on the OpenSea, like it wasn't in the description on OpenSea. Like it wasn't sort of like super readily front and center for people who bought in subsequently, you know, since that first mint. So I think there were a lot of people who in the proof community who bought in maybe at a very high price point and really did not know about this 3-year expiration date. And that's totally, I see all the sides here. Like, that's totally frustrating if you were one of those people who bought in and felt like it wasn't front and center. Totally understand if you're proof, you're like, look, this has been an experiment since day one. Like, it is so impossible to foresee every scenario. Like, you know, there's so much going on. I like what you're saying with Kevin being like, God, people bought in for 20 ETH, 30 ETH. I think proof passes got up, the floor got up as high as 70 and 80 ETH. I mean, the floor got crazy there.
No, exactly.
Who knows, you know, I'm sure there's people who bought in at 60. I was literally thinking about this in the shower this morning. I was like, I would literally go into my Discord and be like, stop. Like, I would just be like, I literally will not be able to drive 80 ETH worth of value to you. Like,
when it's hot, it's hot.
Don't do this.
When it's hot, it's hot. Like, we've been there. I did it. I have so many NFTs that I was like, wow, what I bought top. You know what I mean? Look, that's part of learning. That's part of, like, when you've done that and you've been in this game long enough, like, you hopefully get better every time. I mean, Gordon from the Apes said it to me, and he was like, you know, it was interesting. He was like, you know, you really see that with every cycle that you go through, you know, people seem to figure it out and do better with every cycle. You have to be through the cycles and take the losses. Like, I've been through the 2017 token run. This is my first NFT bull run. I'm not from, you know, I'm not OG. I'm decent, but I'm not OG. So I'm like, I'm in at the top on a bunch of stuff. And, you know, a lot of the stuff I'm going to write off. Yeah.
I think it's like Elon Musk publicly being like, Tesla's overvalued. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, I think he said that the stock dipped for about 24 hours and then went on a crazy tear. Right. So
and people hated him for it.
But like, I almost feel like, I know, but fine. But like, so my thing is like, don't publicly say it, right? Don't go out publicly and say proof is overvalued and whatever, but like privately to the people who are already holding it at this point. And again, you learn, I've had the benefit of hindsight, but like, you know, the OPJ NFTs are not going to hit any 80 ETH, but I'll say it here publicly. They should not be worth 80 ETH. I cannot deliver you 80 ETH worth of value. I think they're worth more than they were minted for, to be honest. But like, I don't think they're worth 80 ETH. And so, I would just say that to my community. I'd be like, don't do this.
I mean, look, we don't know, right? We're kind of all making this up as we go along. Kevin is a very public profile. He's public profile from Web 2 and he's very public profile in Web 3. And he's brought so much attention and notoriety to some of the most prolific artists in the space. If you bought some of the artists that he put on his show, you know, you have some of the best collections out there and you've made a lot of money. And I think that they've brought a lot of value to proof holders in terms of the kind of artist collabs and the things that they've dropped. So I think if you're early, it's amazing. You have to be careful if you're buying something at a really high mint price. You have to do your due diligence. I think the one thing I would say here is that I'm a believer in those guys. And I think that even if this thing sunsets after 3 years, they're not just dipping on their community. Like this team is here to stay and they're building something. So kind of, I'm just sort of like ride with them. I think if I will say if you bought at 60 or 50, you're in it's a tough place to be in, but I'm guessing if you bought it 60 or 50, your goal was probably to make fast money. So, that's something that sometimes you get caught holding the bag.
Yeah. Well, I'll shout out my friend Somi, who I know bought and sold and kind of publicly talked about that. She bought for the networking purposes. She was one of those who didn't realize the network effect She didn't realize the like 3-year sunsetting period piece, and so and she kind of helped fill me on some of this. So I appreciate that, Tomi. And InPeak, her company InPeak, which is lovely. I have sympathy all around, and I agree. They're not. I'm bullish, Kevin. Like, they're not rugging this project. Like, you know, it's certainly nothing like that. Okay. I love how like I'm like quick hits, and then they're like 15 minutes
sorry,
apiece, which
I'll
is
shut
perfect.
up.
And then it's not your fault by any means. I am a part of this. So we're gonna do our main story tonight, so to speak, this morning, which is of course Bitcoin ordinals. Oh wait, no, shoot, I had a funny line. Wait, our main story tonight. There are no ordinary NFTs. There's something there.
I like it. No, it's good.
We're talking about Bitcoin ordinals, folks. And then we'll talk Mintage, and I'll tell you about my terrible UX morning.
We're not going to talk Ryan Carson at all.
Oh gosh. Oh yeah, I guess we'll do Ryan Carson too. We're gonna have Ryan on the show. Ryan's gonna come on the show, and we. But you're right. God, too many things to talk about. Okay, we'll do Ryan Carson too. Okay, let's talk Bitcoin ordinals though. So. I'll give the quick headlines, and then we'll get your thoughts, Nick. So, you probably know this by now. If you do not know about Bitcoin ordinals, I guess you're off Twitter these days. They are the first NFTs like properly on chain on the layer ones. Yes, there's been these things like colored coins, but it's mostly been kind of other workaround hacks. These are properly on Bitcoin main chain NFTs. They are called ordinals. I saw a really funny John Carlo tweet that was like 2022. It's like 2022, all of us being like, can't we find a better name than non-fungible token? 2023, like best I can give you is like ordinal, inscribed ordinals, like not better.
Yeah, I had no idea what it meant. When I
friendly.
first heard it, I was so confused. I was like, what is this? Yeah.
So I'm going to talk through, I think, pros, cons, and then my take and whether I would like overpriced, underpriced, like, is this a buy? But let's start with your high level take on these, Nick.
Okay, so I am a little bit confused. I immediately was like DMing friends being like, so how do I buy one? And if I want to mint a collection, how do I have mint a collection? And, started to talk to me about nodes. And when that happens, it starts to be really, really complicated. I'm still getting used to the fact that I need to open up a MetaMask account and go to a Mint site. And, so Ethereum alone has been complicated for me. I think I'm smooth at it now, but now having to kind of understand how it works on Bitcoin, the fact that people are trading using spreadsheets and trusting people in terms of who they're buying from, there's a lot of complexities to this thing. Now, I think it is exciting. And I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I'm less concerned about what chain things are on. I'm kind of excited when we start to talk about just seamless integration and we just sort of can figure out ways to incorporate the technology. That's a future that I look forward to. But for now, I understand the significance of an early on-chain NFT. And I think that, I get the excitement around ordinals. The only thing that I will say concerns me a little bit, or that just makes me pause, is the fact that if you're an early CryptoPunk holder, you were part of a moment in time, and you didn't go out and purchase it simply because of the fact that it was the first of its kind. You were just happened to be someone in a Discord or someone on Twitter or part of a chat group or just a developer, and happened to realize what the Larva Labs guys were doing, and you got lucky and you got one for free through this community that you knew. And maybe early on you bought one for 0.08 or whatever the case may be. And I think that was a natural thing. I think that people now are so quick to chase trend, and they're like, this is crazy, there's the first of its kind, and you've seen this massive price increase, and then you see, and I will say, I don't think it's I'm going to go on record, it's not an influencer pump, but you see people who have proven track records going to get the stuff and racing to grab it. So naturally, more and more people are going to onboard. So you have this sort of hype cycle. So I say that all to say I'm not rushing to get the 300K ordinal right now of Punk, but I am super keen to learn more about it and to understand how I actually mint some stuff, and how do I use a node and to get on and do this and learn from this process.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't mint this stuff.
Yeah.
Like you have to run a node to mint it or
Yeah.
sell it or inscribe it, I guess, right? And then, I
Yeah.
mean, look, you're like, it feels like we've moved backwards, right? You have these node runners who just are keeping these things in escrow, and the transactions are happening on a spreadsheet because because it's just safer to have the original inscriber, basically the originator of the collection, to keep all these things in escrow because they're a trustworthy third party.
Right.
And
But really exciting if in the future Bitcoin does become a dominant chain here, right? Like, I don't know. I think
it
we
won't.
need to. Yeah. So okay. So if that's the decision,
That's
then,
I mean,
you're probably not. Yeah.
I don't know for sure.
No,
But
but I mean, it's a strong stance. It's a good stance to take. I mean, I believe in a multi-chain world, and like I said, seamless integration, and we stop talking so much about what chain it's on, and we can onboard a credit card, and my mom knows how to like store something on chain. Like I believe in that world, but there is an argument to be made. And if you look to the Jack Dorseys of the world, or like Bitcoin is, don't count it out. It's the powerful technology. There's a reason people, hold Bitcoin in reserve. Yes, it's a store of value, but it's also like a pretty innovative technology. I don't know, there's arguments that Ethereum won't be here forever. So, I wish I could tell the future. I would tell you. So I see the significance of owning an ordinal. I would love to get stuff and get one, but I don't want to chase. I don't want to buy the top.
yeah. Okay. I hear you. I think my take is Bitcoin is a powerful chain and it is powerful technology. Like, I turn into a Bitcoin purist. I'm like, it is a powerful chain. It is a powerful technology for exactly the thing it was meant to do, which is be a store of value, a la gold, super sound money, whatever, right? Like, not even really money, because I don't think it's a great value for exchange. I think it's a great value for storage. But let me be fair. Let me give pros, cons. You guys are getting a flavor of my a taste of my opinion on all this. But I'll give you my full opinion sort of at the end. I think pros are, okay, cool. Like NFTs on Bitcoin, like that's cool, right? NFTs on layer 1 chain of Bitcoin is fun and interesting and a novelty, and I'm enough of a nerd that I find that cool. Whether I think there's real value in it or sustainability, like, this is sustainable, is a whole nother question that I'll get to, but it is on its surface freaking cool. Humans are amazing. Some group of people have spent a long period of time trying to figure out how they could get NFTs on like layer 1 Bitcoin, and they did it. And there's this like crazy inscription thing. My big question is like, it's inscribed on a Satoshi, but that's a fraction of a Bitcoin, the currency, not Bitcoin, the chain. But I won't bore people with my like very technical, the limits of my technical understanding, but I have some very specific questions there that I will ask somebody at some point. So it's cool. Pro number 1, it's fun. It's a novelty. Pro number 2, and I don't know, this is where I don't know the future either, but there's talk that this helps with like the Bitcoin, I don't know what they call it, value problem. Like, essentially, once all of the Bitcoin have been mined,
right,
what is the continued incentive to continue running a node and basically maintaining the Bitcoin network if you're not getting new Bitcoin as a reward? And the idea that you could actually have transactions on like that this could be a source of transactions with Bitcoin, since a lot of people don't want to spend Bitcoin to buy a coffee, for example, right? Since people will transact with Bitcoin, maybe for NFTs or the equivalent of NFTs, right? For artifacts, ordinals, whatever you want to call them, that could be a way to sustain, the network. Okay, that's a pro. That's an interesting argument. It's not an argument for why you should trade ordinals, right? But it's a positive if ordinals, were a sustainable thing on Bitcoin. Cons, there's concerns about it bloating the network. I've seen pretty compelling cases that this is not probably an issue, because there's been some changes to Bitcoin in such a way that the kind of transaction, the kind of data basically that an ordinal takes up like the least amount of space on a block based on the way that Bitcoin is structured. It's like witness data or something like that. So, but there's concerns about it bloating the network, of course, driving up fees, just making it very hard to transact in Bitcoin. Yeah, that's what we're good at. NFTs do. That's what we do very well. Yeah, exactly. Drive up gas fees, congest the network. That's our specialty.
To your point, to sum it up though, that I think is a really good point. It'll drive innovation on Bitcoin, right? It will certainly, because whatever that problem that it's going to create, there's going to be engineers there to solve it. And there's going to be some serious maxis who are going to go in heavy on this and use it to prove their case that, Bitcoin is more than a store of value.
Yeah. Well, but I think a lot of it, depends on your definition of maxi, because I think a lot of the maxis are quite perfectly content with Bitcoin as a store of value and, are so derisive of NFTs. I mean, it's so funny. I was arguing with a Bitcoin maxi because I was like, all right, what's this person's take? And I was like, I came away like disappointed by how lame I felt their arguments were, which was basically, I mean, the argument, you have to completely dismiss that there is any use for blockchain other than fixing a broken, inflated monetary system. Like they're not even it's not, you know what I mean? They're not saying Bitcoin is better than that. They're saying there's basically, the argument was there's no value really in, they asked me the person was like, what is the point of blockchain? And I said digital scarcity. And they were like, okay, well, I think it's to fix the monetary system. And I was like, okay, then we're not arguing. Like this isn't a debate.
Right.
Like we have different points of entry here to this whole conversation. Yeah. Anyway, so for those people, that's the other con. And so where I land with all this and my let me sum this up on my side is, look, do I think there's a world in which your ordinal punk becomes a good store of value like CryptoPunks because it's the first and it's historic? Totally. And if you have one of those sub 10,000 ordinal punks, great, hold on to it. That's probably an interesting long-term store of value play. Though I will say, to your point, punks arose out of there was an organic community that rallied around it, that evolved. And this is, broadly speaking, my concern for Bitcoin NFTs. I don't see a community developing there. Yeah. Like it's Solana without the community of people who love NFTs, which is what Solana's advantage is.
Yeah. I mean, there's two things you made me think. One is funny enough, I have been approached before with Bitcoin NFTs. Now I know that there's a difference with the Ordinals, and again, I'm not the most tech savvy person, but I've been approached early, as in last year, people being like, "Oh, we are an NFT product on Bitcoin," and I remember completely just dismissing it and being like, I don't even have the mind space to comprehend what you're talking about. But there was like this and again, I think it felt more like Bitcoin Miami crowd, very like Bitcoin Pro, right? A lot of bees on their shirts and stuff like that. That's one thing. So, I could see that community rallying around it. And this might help a little bit more kind of bridging the two kind of competing communities of Ethereum, maxis, and Bitcoin, whatever. But the other thing that I just want to say here, and I don't know if this is the stance but I just think it's super lame that it's punks. I'm just like, I thought Solana punks was, I just think or algo punks. I'm like, this is the thing where people go, it's a punk. And I'm like, that's already to me kind of lame. It's like if it was something that somebody was playing with and the community discovered and it had no complete derivative or just pure ripoff of the idea of the punk, I just right away that turns me off. I'm like, if you have I have a crypto punk and I feel really proud of it and you feel like you're part of something, but I don't want to go and buy the exact same replica just because somebody went first and put a punk on it. That's my take on it. I know it might stand for something in the like, kind of underground world of cyber, power, but for me, it's just kind of silly.
That I agree with. I was trying to think, how fully do I agree with what you're saying? And for some reason, like the Solana, like one of the early, they had an early ape community as well. I forget what it's called, right? But like Solana had an early ape community. They had their early punk. Like it felt lamer.
I think it was Solana apes.
Bothers me.
Was
it? No, there was a different word for it. It's like it's like I can picture
the
apes,
monkeys. Yes.
You know what I mean? Like they were like more full bodied, and anyways, it was like Ape Academy or something. I don't know, whatever. And so that for some reason feels lamer to me than with Bitcoin because punks comes out of I think like the cyber funk movement and like and that is so Bitcoin. Even I think they can lay a greater claim to that even than Ethereum. Like. I don't know why it bothers me less, but it's a totally valid opinion to have. The other thing is, and this goes back to my stance, I'll make it very clear, and I can eat these words someday if I'm wrong, but like the punk ordinals, okay, that's interesting. If you have one, congratulations. Could be a very interesting store of value over time because it's historic. Basically any other ordinal that you have right now, like I would not be buying into this. Seems like such a bubble that is destined to burst. My caveat to that, and this is what needs to remain to be seen, is if a real community forms around one of these ordinals. Again, I don't see a huge community forming around Bitcoin NFTs writ large, but I could absolutely see like a couple ordinals that are coming out just for that kismet, the way it happens. Some community really forms, people find their home, they love their people, and then you'll have some pumping that happens across a couple of these ordinals, over time, and who knows what ends up being dominant here. Punks weren't technically the first ETH NFT, right? But they were early enough, and that's where the community formed, that they really get the credit. And so could see something. I could see something similar happening with ordinals.
For sure, I completely agree. I completely agree with you. So if I can figure out how to get one, I can get a deal on one, I might grab one. But I'm gonna have to take some work to figure it out. Although I am thinking about, I got to figure out how to mint on there, because I feel like if it's a fun moment to capture, and you got to learn all this stuff, while you have the chance.
Yeah. I took a look at one of the spreadsheets, like the kind of the punk ordinal spreadsheet, and I was like, okay, got it. This is what you guys are doing. No interest in diving in, but noted.
Yeah, I mean,
all right. So to wrap this, overpriced, underpriced. I'm going Bitcoin ordinals, overpriced.
Oh, agree. Overpriced. Hands down.
Love it.
Done.
They're probably going to 10x from here. They'll overtake ETH NFTs.
That's the beauty of this game, is that we just don't know. Every time I try to make a prediction based on confident decision, I lose. I really do. It's 100%. Rare that I know this, You know when you
it's hard.
The next apes I thought I was grabbing? Oh my God. I was like, oh, this is the next ape. No, not at all.
Yeah. Turned out false.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm worried about even opening the Ryan Carson can of worms, because it's such a long can of worms, and I really want to talk about Mintage. But let's open it briefly. Again, I've DM'd Ryan. He's agreed to come on the show. I have to actually follow up with him. I've been slow on following up with him. Give me your take.
I listened to the Daily Dose this morning, right? Ryan, and I have not spent time with Ryan. I'm new to the Ryan Carson world. Like, I've followed his story from the proof stuff to the current stuff, and I think he's a fantastic creator. I think he's a great storyteller. He runs an awesome show. Like, I think that is something that, as talent, he really is kind of showing that he's best in class in this, emerging Web3 space. And I put you in that category as well. Like,
thank you.
The thing about Ryan, and I think this is something that I personally have my own take on, is that my career has been working around talent. Like, what I've done, from, like you said, from Snoop Dogg to many other people who I've been a background player in their worlds. And what I've realized is that the best talent out there, they have really strong teams behind them, but they're left to do what they do best. And that's to be creative, right? And that's to create amazing content, whatever. And what I think is a little disheartening about the Web3 space right now is everyone's coming in trying to do, again, there's a lot of money at stake here, and there's a lot of ability to earn, and people are trying to just do everything and build too fast. And I think, Ryan's found a real lane for himself in the content side. I think he needs to stop trying to build incubators and stop being a, entrepreneur leader, like, I don't know, Kevin O'Leary. Like, I think ultimately at the end of the day, stay focused and create the content. If you want to go out and be a Web3 entrepreneur and do a fund, then do that and build it behind the scenes and put the best team. But using both together and creating the marketing hype to drive attention to that, it takes away from the good stuff. And again, it makes it all murky, and it makes it, and I don't think he's that good at it. And I think if he wants to do that stuff, you need the right people in place to do that. So I have no ill will towards him. I would have been bummed if I was one of the people that agreed to invest and he publicly put it out there, and then I had to deal with the crowds. But it shows that he's already seems to be recovering through the daily dose. And those influencers and the people who supported him, who are awesome people, I know a lot of them, they made their moves. They said a lot of them, disassociated themselves, which I think is unfortunate for both sides, but had to be done, I think, in certain circumstances. So ultimately, I don't know him personally, so it's hard for me. Right now, I don't have any ill will. But I'm sure there's more and more stories and people who have horror stories with him. Whenever I hear those, I'm kind of like, ugh, that's kind of gross and shocking. But what I know of him as a creator, I can't not listen. That's what's crazy to me is I literally will wake up in the morning and be like, oh, maybe I'll listen to a little Farouk, maybe I'll listen to a little Ryan. Like I'm getting, more and more engaged in space. So I love entertainment, and I love him as Ryan Carson as an entertainer. I definitely would never invest in his fund. At least right now, I wouldn't invest in his fund, and I certainly wouldn't go on, go out line to promote it on Twitter or Facebook. But I'll definitely go on a show. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I like that take. I think that's an interesting take. I mean, he doesn't have a background as a creator, so I think his background is as an entrepreneur, and so, but this take that. Well, guess what? What you're really talented at is being a creator and a content person, and go stick in that lane is an interesting one. But part of the reason that I'm hesitant is, I've thought about this more than I think was reasonable. I spent a lot of last weekend thinking about this. I do know Ryan personally a bit, in the sense that I've met him several times and I've DM'd with him and had phone calls with him, and he asked me to invest in, he gave me the opportunity to invest in Flux, which I said no because I felt like I didn't have time to do any due diligence on it, and I'm not that rich and would have needed to do due diligence to put $10,000 into something.
Ordinal Flux.
Yeah, neither. So there's a crazy cognitive dissonance for me between the person that I know and interact with, who's just incredibly warm, and what seems to be this just really, really consistent pattern and track record of rubbing people the wrong way.
Yes.
I think his entrepreneurial history is littered with that. And I know people who know him from past entrepreneurial endeavors he's done who have really not positive things to say about that. And that's where I start to feel like, where there's that much smoke, where is the fire? And again, I want to tell him in advance that I'd like to talk about all of that if he comes on the show.
There's
I also
a lot
been somebody
of
who
fires.
felt
there is fires.
Yeah,
right?
there's certainly a lot of smoke. Yeah. I mean, but some of this is where for me, I actually don't in this case, the fire felt very overblown. Like the backlash to what I saw as the problem here felt overblown, which was, okay, you prematurely posted the names of all these influencers, quote unquote, right, who got this early access. And they early enough that they didn't feel that they felt uncomfortable. They thought my sense was not so much that people didn't think he was going to publicly announce them. And based on the message he sent me when he asked me to invest, it's pretty clear, he's coming to you early, he wants to be able to kind of leverage the fact that you're in early. So that it wasn't that they didn't know they were going to be announced at all. That's kind of stupid, and you'd have to be really naive to not think you're going to be announced. My sense is that a lot of these investors thought it was going to follow what is a very traditional raise process, which is you get announced after the raise is completed. It was using your name out the gate to get the money that was odd and I think rubbed people the wrong way. But the thing that then where I'm like, okay, I get that, totally see that, noted, weird bad comms, weird bad management on his part. Where people started to make the next leap that I just found weird was they were like, oh, it's so classic using influencers' names to get this retail investment, and the people who come in early get these preferential terms, which I actually don't think that was true either. Yeah, you got preference and that you could invest at 10K, but I wasn't getting more equity for 10K, right? I was getting proportional equity, I think. In any case, the retailers who have $160,000 liquid to invest in a Web3 incubator, he wasn't using the influencers' names. Yeah. Well, but I'm disagreeing. I'm saying he wasn't using influencers' names to go sell you a 1 ETH NFT that a lot of people could have bought. He was using influencers' names to sell to people who had $160,000 liquid cash to put into a Web3 incubator. That's not a normie. You know what I mean? That's a pretty wealthy individual. Yeah, no, I couldn't do that. I couldn't put that money in.
No, it is. It is. But, I think that his formula, his go-to-market formula was a little half-baked. It was a little bit of hypey, and it was like the handshakes on Twitter, and you know what I mean, the tweets where they had the two people when they were shaking hands, and then the sort of like the launch, and the site itself was clean, but it didn't feel super clean. It felt like it was kind of put together, you know what I mean? And so for me, you know, I think that there are people out there, especially in the Web3 space, who may not have become high profile yet, but they've collected a lot of ETH, or they've collected a lot. So they're going to follow G or Jimmy or, you know, some of the people who come in because they respect those people. So I think that he definitely put himself in a better position. If he didn't have, look, this is the big thing here for me, is reputation is everything. And if he didn't have a reputation a bad reputation at this point, then I don't think there would have been a problem here. I think this thing probably worked out pretty smoothly. But when you, to your point, take in consideration the various things, because I'm in a couple chat groups, and I've seen already discussion around, you know, Ryan to this degree, and that's what kind of, even for me, is like, okay, I'm skeptical on the business side, again, fan on the creator side, and I think his ability to do that isn't just, you know, his ability to sell through the daily dose is probably what he can do in a boardroom, or what he can do, you know, in terms of like, you know, on a one-to-one relationship. And so he's great at selling. But his reputation and his track record combined with the way this thing went down, it just blew up. Yeah. But yet the guy's resilient. He's like, I give him, the guy's on, there's 1,700 people on his spaces this morning, and there's sound bites in the storytelling. But we are in a space with a lot, and this is a tough word, we're in a space with a lot of cons, right? And when you couple the fact that like Sam Bankman-Fried sort of has this resiliency too, he's just like, hey, yeah, we had the biggest scam in the world, but I'm still on Twitter, and I'm here to tell you it's a mistake, and I love you, and like, this is a really native Web3 thing or crypto thing. So, you know, it's hard to sort of separate that.
No, and I think you make a good point when I like my $160,000 point of like, that's not really a normie, which I stand by. But your point is like, yeah, but there are a lot of like, you know, like people who aren't like quote unquote sophisticated investors who have ended up with a bunch of money in this space, who might follow these other leaders. That's where it does start to feel grifty. And you know, and I will say, like, my big takeaway, like I'm not a sophisticated investor who's done a lot of investing outside of like IDCA into index funds and into like, you know, some ETH, and then I've bought NFTs and things. But like, you know, it did feel so casual. Like I got this DM in Twitter that's just like, hey, like here's a 4-minute video. Like, do you want to put 10K into this? And it did set me on the foot of like, it feels so casual that I feel like I wouldn't be able to ask all the questions that I want to ask. I'm sure Ryan actually would have been lovely, but I'm like, this guy's busy. Like I would want to spend hours really digging into this. Yeah. And the casual nature of this wasn't like a formal email and here's the process if you have questions. Like it was so just like, it was kind of flippant. And I do think it's part of that flippancy that also makes it feel a little grifty sometimes of like, you kind of quickly slapping this together, and because you've got this big audience now, you're going to milk them for $10 million or whatever. So, you know, very mixed feelings on the whole thing. I understand a variety of different perspectives on this. You know, and again, would love to have Ryan on and to, I mean,
he's going to be all right. He's going to do just fine. And like, I think if they focus on that show and they focus on being storytellers, you know, they're at the end of the day, people will forgive and jump on board, and certainly maybe not invest, but you know, I think they'll survive to see another day. We'll continue
to listen to the show.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Talk about Mintage. Tell us the origin here. What is minting now? And a little bit about Sean Wotherspoon.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me talk about Mintage. So I've been, you know, in traditional entertainment for a long time, but I've always been an early adopter of technology. 2007, 2008, really started to experiment with social media on behalf of clients, you know, went up to Silicon Valley, got to meet, you know, and had the good fortune through people I worked with to get access to, you know, these companies, and got to meet, you know, the founders of these big tech companies in 2007. And, you know, I started to like use the platforms and, you know, put Snoop Dogg on Twitter or Instagram, whatever the case was. And I saw this amazing moment of arbitrage where we started to build massive audiences. I was very green at the time. I didn't know that you could invest. I learned later, and that was sort of a moment where I got to understand, like, it's the VCs that, you know, these are there's the access to the deals, and they're able to do due diligence, and there's recommendations. And if you can, create those relationships, you can get access to the deals, right? To the same point of what we're talking about, Ryan. And I didn't go all in 2007, but I kind of put one foot in. And what I learned was, if you work at it, you can get behind the curtain a little bit, but also like we put in so much work to build these tech companies into behemoths. And what happened was they ended up taking our data, reducing our audience, and charging us, and we lost control. And it started to really teach me about this, like the loss of ownership of your digital footprint. And I don't think there was ill will there. I just think as things grow and you become public and there's boards and you have numbers to hit, like it's a business at the end of the day. It wasn't this promise of like changing the world. Like it was it was that moment where I said, okay, when I see another moment like this in terms of technology, I'm going all in. And I went back to kind of work and branding, endorsements and stuff. And then I saw the Web3 moment happen, again, Clubhouse 2021, sitting inside, listening to people. And that's what kind of red pilled me, the Beeples of the world ever. And I started to sort of experiment with it. And that's when I was like, okay, this is my moment. I'm going all in. And I really did. Like I kind of reduced my working in the traditional agency side, and started to like think about how to navigate Snoop in Web3, how to help make him a kind of a well-known figure in terms of NFTs, and then started to think about advising for other talent who were trying to get in. And then Web3 companies started to come out and say, hey, could you help us kind of bridge between entertainment and stuff like that? And I learned quickly, like, how do you do this authentically? There's I fumbled the ball. I did some projects that I thought were, in hindsight are cringe, like working with weird chains to do NFTs that didn't really, and so I learned from that. And it was through all this process that I was like, okay. And again, like I've kind of said this before, but I've somehow my whole career entered the market, made changes during downturns. It's just been the way it's gone. I've never been able to capitalize on the height. So here we are in the bear. And I said to myself, if I don't build something now, I'm going to look back on this time and really regret it, because it's the smartest engineers, the smartest designers, the smartest artists are all colliding here to do things. And I was like, I need to, rather than kind of like keep jumping on board of the project, I need to build something. And I looked around and I was like, there's a lot of great world building and game building, and even music products. And I was like, one thing that I think is really has an opportunity to be digitally disrupted is the world of fashion, and more notably streetwear, because it's something that I was a fan of and worked in and got to know people. And and through that process, I was introduced to Sean Witherspoon and Brennan Russo. Brennan is a co-founder. Sean's a co-founder. Brennan spent most of his career at Adidas working on, I've worked with him with Snoop, but working on talent deals. And Sean has just made an awesome name and career for himself, just being a sneaker designer, a collaborator with Porsche, vegan coffee company. Like he's a real
dangerous collaboration these days.
Yeah, exactly.
The
right?
Porsche NFT was mixed, but
exactly. Yeah. But anyway, so we just started to talk. And when I walked into Sean's vintage store on Melrose, he started to show me all these different vintage t-shirts, and one of them he pulled a rock tee off the wall, and I asked him how much it was. It was a black faded rock and roll tee, and he said it was $2,000. And this is like, again, 2021, and my jaw dropped, and I'm like, who's gonna buy that? He said that thing will be gone by the end of the day. And at the time, ETH's 4,000, the vintage t-shirt, high-end vintage tees are 2,000. Now that same tee is 4,000, ETH's less than 2,000. So you could say vintage flipped ETH, right? So he starts to show me the rips and the tears and the fades and the provenance, and I'm like, what does that sound like NFTs, right? So I started to think to myself, like, because I've been thinking about music merchandise for a long time, and how can you make the experience more dynamic? How can you go to shows and potentially get the digital version of your rock tee? So all this kind of things I've been thinking about were clicking. And even things like, what it's a bootleg t-shirt. Like why is the bootleg more valuable than the original? Because the bootleg's more limited, and they did things that were more irreverent. It might have like taken bad words that you couldn't clear at the time. And I started thinking like, well, how can you maybe put that on chain, and how can you kind of attribute it back to the original photographer, and how can you give it to the the artist who it's promoting? And so Sean and I and Brennan, we got in the lab, And what we realized was there was a real opportunity to take all these great silhouettes and products that he's been collecting for years. His archives over 4,000 pieces, one-on-one pieces that he's bid in auctions and beat Levi's for, and really museum-worthy things. And we started to think about how can we show those pieces in the best digital format, and how can we make them playable in games, and how can we kind of create iterations and versions of these where you could redesign them with inks, and how can we onboard other designers? So we start with Sean, and then we introduce the next series of designers after Sean. And so this process kind of clicked. We came together and we launched Mintage. Mintage, obviously a play on mint and vintage, right? We got a great designer to do our brand feel and our logo. And we really said, we want to be a culture brand first. We want to be a brand that people feel like they want to be a part of. Less so than they even feel like they have to run in and buy an NFT and to own a part of. We want you to be like, oh, this is a cool vibe. It has that culture to it. I see a world where a Mintage pop up at NFT New York or Art Basel or Fashion Week has both the DGen community coming in to engage on the collector side, but has a line of 16-year-old kids waiting in line who this may be their first engagement with NFTs. How can we onboard that community? So that's a big whirlwind introduction. But to simplify it, we launched a Mint Pass called the Mintage Mint Pass. We have 2 passes, a day one and a Friends and Family. Friends and Family is a very sneaker culture thing. There's only 100 of those. We sold our Mint Pass out in hours.
You were the trending project. I remember that. It was big.
It was a hit.
You guys topped OpenSea on that
we did.
thing.
So it was a big day. And that was our first 1,500 buyers. It really became our first 1,000 community. And I love the thesis that Balaji talks about you can take 1,000 to influence 1 million. And I think that we have a strong 1,000 who are really, really engaged. And we just, as of yesterday, which was, Tuesday, the 7th, we launched the Sean Trunk. And that's the pass holders. They were initially allowed to buy one, and then we allowed the public to buy some. And then once that mint ends today, it's a free claim,
which
for
is
pass
Thursday,
holders.
So it's too late once you're hearing this, unfortunately.
No, but listen, go on the secondary, Sean Witherspoon Mintage Collection or the Mintage Pass, part of the community, join us. I just want to, for us, what Sean's Trunk embodies is a vision of digital wearables that we have in mind. Digital wearables that we see you being able to play in-game, to be able to also play with those wearables themselves in terms of redesign, but also we attach to real world product. We have a marketplace launching very soon where you're going to be able to get the coolest, as your only pass holders, get access to the coolest picked vintage with some kind of embellishments that we've created, with the chipping, access to events and things like this. We're really, really, really thinking about, how we could build a Web2, an emerging streetwear brand on Web3, like Supreme or Kith have done on Web2. And, I think there's a big future for us. I think NFTs are our entry point, but ultimately we're a fashion innovation company. And I think that, I hope to reward buyers of our projects. I hope they have upside. I hope they can resell for more, but I hope they also get access to other ways to fulfill their lives and even potentially, if you get one piece of vintage from us, maybe they can resell it for more. So there's more kind of tradability in the future.
Super cool. So just to get a little specific here, and maybe some of this is still being worked out, but if you hold, so you have there's the Mint Pass, which will give you access. That's the first thing you sold. That'll give you access to future drops, right?
Yes, for sure.
Advantageous access.
Right now you can, and today the free claim, this claim will run. So anyone who buys a Mint Pass after watching this can go and claim a free Sean Witherspoon trunk.
Okay, assuming that Mint Pass hasn't already claimed, is there a clear way to delineate if the Mint Pass is claimed?
Well, so the Mint Pass itself, you can just go buy. In terms of if
I have a Mint Pass and I claim the trunk and then I try and go sell it on secondary.
Right. No, that is a good point. Yes, there is protections there. I will. I got to figure that out exactly what they did. But in terms of, you're saying if you bought a Mint Pass with it that's already claimed the trunk kind of thing.
Trunk.
Okay, got it.
Yes. Yeah. So that piece, but so having this Mint Pass, you'll get access to future trunks like these. In the trunks are is it a surprise what piece you get?
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, there's 4 pieces of apparel. So each trunk will contain one of those 4 pieces of apparel. And then each trunk also contains 1 ink. So when you get 1 trunk, you get 1 piece of apparel and 1 ink, right? And if you go to our Twitter, you could see the ink vials and you could see some of the examples of the apparel. Now, there'll be a reveal when that trunk opens and you'll learn which apparel you have and which ink. And each apparel and each ink have different rarity. Then you'll take that and you'll go to our factory, and then there's a burn mechanism where you blend the 2 together. And there's examples on our Instagram and our Twitter of what our more dynamic fashion NFTs look like. You're talking about Venus flytraps. Sean was inspired by nature, so it's mushrooms and it's Venus flytraps and it's moss. And so those different inks contain those characteristics, mushrooms being a rarity trait. So if you blend the mushrooms in with your jacket and with your pants, you'll have a very rare kind of outfit together. Now, what's interesting is we don't know who's going to burn what inks with what apparel. So, 500 people may go burn on one and 20 people will go burn another, creating more, the game itself creates more and more rarity. So the apparel becomes more and more rare.
And then let me ask, so you have that, then you have that piece of apparel, which is cool, that digital wearable. The 2 questions are, A, how far along are you? Where are you in the process? And it's not just a you thing, right? This is a broader tech thing. So I don't know if you have a sense on where are we in terms of where that wearable can realistically be used in games. Right, exactly. And I know there's a lot to, it's very hard at this stage to put a wearable on a character.
Well, the beauty is that,
right? Decentraland has these things, but it's like their own wearables that you have to mint on Decentraland within their standards, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. The beauty of it is that it is really bespoke and it's based on the relationships you have with each of these individual companies. We are very fortunate. Our smart contracts and part of our team is the Non-Fungible Labs team. So Non-Fungible Labs are the team behind the Futureverse. So the Party Bears, the Seekers, the Fluffs.
World. Yeah, so they've been on the pod. Go check it out. Aaron McDonald's interview was great.
Aaron's the man, and Aaron is full on here. So we already have some examples of some Fluff wearable stuff that we've shown on our socials. I am promising a Fluff integration very soon. So you got to start somewhere. I have great relationships with 10KTF. I have great relationships with the Bored Ape Yacht Club. I can't wait to see the other side. I intend to be there. I don't know, but I feel like we can get there. I was
like I say, you're getting dangerous. You're starting to promise things,
No.
Be careful.
That's a goal is to get there. A goal is to get the Doodle. I'm super impressed with what the Doodles did and with their flow integration and with their wearables and the fact that it has its own trading community. I would love to collaborate with the Doodles. So, and then I believe that, as a skins project, that's the other thing. I've done deals with Call of Duty. I've done deals, in my career, not with Mintage, but ideally would like to have, Mintage wearables in Call of Duty and Fortnite and all that kind of stuff. And whether it's an NFT or it's a redeemable, most likely you have to do it through a licensing and redeemable model because they're not ready to embrace NFTs yet. And that's for another show. We could talk deeply about the future of Web2 gaming. But that's that. And then immediately where we can achieve goals is through real physicals. And those real physicals, I'm a huge G Money fan, and I'm an owner of 9DCC, and I think he's thinking about fashion forward innovation. We're thinking about stuff that exists. How do we take pieces, chip them, give them to people, and start to explain the provenance and the rarity of those T-shirts, and give you experiences with those T-shirts or pants or whatever.
Last question. Right now, it sounds like you said you have a marketplace opening up. Right now, what's the process if I have a Mint Pass or if I have a Sean trunk? Is there already in place you can redeem a wearable or you can use a digital wearable to redeem for a physical piece, or will it be you'll get discounts on physical pieces? How do you see that playing out?
Yeah, so right now we have we've done limited drops, like 20 holders got access to a free pair of Sean's new Adidas, which are super coveted shoes. Like I said, the Mint Pass immediately gives you claim to Sean's trunk if you own a Mint Pass that hasn't been claimed yet. And then we have a pair of denim jeans that you can see on Sean's Twitter that are fruits and veggies denim that are all based on old Levi's 501 silhouettes where he has embellished fruits and veggies on them, and those are going to launch purely for our pass holders. And there is the mechanic of how we're receiving them we're working through now, but we're stocking inventory and we've made promises to deliver that product only to pass holders.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nick. I
No
I
problem.
teased this at the top of the show, so I'm going to give my quick run through of I mean, it's no run through. It's just like the UX in this space little rant, and then we'll wrap. But I mean, essentially, the Rug Radio, they have their Corey Van Leeuwen, PFPs that they launched. If you had a certain amount of rug and you hold tokens, there was like a window in which you could go early and burn your rug for your PFP. I have a ton of rug that I just like never claimed. And some number of weeks ago, I did the right thing. I did the thing you're supposed to do. And I moved like all of my assets into a Ledger wallet because I was like, I want to be careful. This was like a little bit before the Kevin hack. And I just felt like validated in the Kevin hack stuff. I was like, all right, good. And then, of course, lo and behold, I'm like, it's a crazy week. I see that this Corey Van Leeuwen stuff is happening. I'm like, I want to get my PFP, but oh my God, my rug's my Ledger. I'm like in the wrong room. You know what I mean? Like I don't have access to my Ledger in the immediate. So I'm like, all right, I'll do it. Finally, this morning, I get around to it where I get my Ledger so I can connect up. Now I have to claim my rug. Right. So now I'm on there. I have to claim my rug. Oh, but I don't have ETH in my Ledger. Right.
Hey, but it's easy, right?
So now in that Ledger. Yeah. So now I have to send it. So that's fairly easy once then I go to claim my rug and I have to sign a transaction, but it's not at all intuitive. And I have this every time I do something with Ledger, which I love, of course. I love Ledger. And I'm thinking Ledger STAX might be a good antidote to this, but you always have to sign a transaction. But like it's always a little confusing. You sign it on the Ledger and they do this thing where it was like, 1 of 3, right? So I scroll through 1 of 3 and I'm clicking the double thing. It doesn't matter. There's like 6 1 of 3s. So I have to keep going. So it took me like 20 minutes, literally. I mean, it's so embarrassing to finally figure out where the thing is. I just thought it was taking forever. So I just kept like doing work and then coming back and being like, it still hasn't transacted. This was like 2 hours. I won't bore everybody with every detail, but I didn't have blind signing turned on. So now I have to Google like, how do I turn on blind signing? And then like 2 hours later, I have my rug, but it's not even showing up in my MetaMask wallet. I try to like add, but I can't find the contract address. You know what I mean? It's like thing after thing. I finally have my rug. I don't actually know if I can still buy this thing with rug anymore, mind you, right? So I go into the Discord to find out, oh no, I moved all of my rug NFTs into my Ledger wallet. So I no longer have access to the Rug Radio Discord. I can't write in the Discord. Right, because I'm not verified anymore, and then I have to go back and verify it, but I can't immediately find the verify tab, and then I have to hop on and have this conversation with you, so I still haven't.
You still haven't got it,
So I'm like, this is insane, and it's nobody's fault. It's sure as hell not Ledger's fault. It's sure as hell not Rug Radio's fault. It's like, but it feels like to do things quote unquote right here, to try and stay safe, it's so hard. And I'm like, this is why we don't have mass adoption, because this shit's insane. It's like I either have to risk feeling like I'm gonna get all my assets stolen, or playing the game and playing along just feels non-feasible.
It's crazy. What do you think the timeline is? When do you think this gets better? Because I've talked about this before. I don't see this happening in a year, maybe 2 years.
Yeah, I agree.
Is it 3 years? I mean, mass adoption. And I like seeing, little bits of adoption. I like seeing people get onboarded, but, just the simple fact of having how you set up the MetaMask in the first place and getting that first bit of ETH transferred from your Coinbase or whatever your custodial kind of entry point is to that, to purchasing your first NFT or DeFi for that matter, like, it is so scary. And I don't know. I mean, have you been hacked by chance? Have you been phished? Have you done that?
I have not.
All right, not good.
And I'm very afraid of it. So
yeah, I did.
That's why I have all my stuff in Ledger.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this a lot. I lost 3 mutants at the peak in 1 minute, in 1 second. Boom. It was like, at the time, those things were like $100,000 at the moment. So it was like $300,000 in terms of then value. I don't write it like that because I wasn't going to sell them anyway. But it's the most gutted feeling I had ever had. I was just disgusted. And, sometimes you have to learn this stuff the hard way, but, that's kind of me who's a heavy degen going in every day trying to do this stuff. I can't even imagine what it's like from, people in kind of the traditional world, but hopefully MoonPay and people like that can solve some of these problems. Coinbase, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that was my thing too, is I'm like, because I haven't been actively trading and I've been very open about that. It's been the bear market. I've been building stuff. I haven't been like super,
except for your Mintage pass, your Mintage trunk.
Except for my Mintage pass. Yeah. Wait, well, did I get an allow spot? We should talk about this. We'll talk about this offline.
We'll figure it out.
No pressure. No, yeah, we'll figure it out. I'll grab mine. But no, I think like I haven't been trading a lot at all. And so it was just like that reminder, you know, and again, you feel like you're doing the right thing. You asked about timeline. I would say, and we can end on this, like to me, and people hate this, right? But like people are going to get onboarded custodial, right? They're going to get onboarded through the Ticketmaster custodial wallet and your Reddit custodial wallet and your Instagram custodial wallet, blah, blah, blah. And you know, like, and I don't care at all. And then I think the unlock has to be at some point like a user interface, you know, sort of an app, like your Instagram style thing that makes it very easy to go and figure out or to find or to connect all of the various custodial wallets you have. So there's one central interface where you can show off all your NFTs, because that's what we need. We need a central place where you can show off your NFTs. I've made this analogy before, right? When on the dating apps, you know, you link out to your Instagram and you link out to your wallet, and then people can go see, oh, you know, she goes to these concerts and she visits these coffee shops. Oh my gosh, me too. We should totally match. Like there's a very cool, interesting, like dating app component, in my opinion,
Absolutely.
to like what a wallet can do. But again, you can't, that doesn't work if you have your Ticketmaster NFTs and your Ticketmaster wallet. Like you need a central place. So that is sort of right now how I'm conceptualizing this progression, is like custodial wallets that onboards people. It's easy, it's safe, there's a centralized power there to some extent that people feel uncomfortable with. I don't give a shit. I just want people using this technology at this point. And then you have some sort of app layer on top or wallet layer on top that I don't know what level of decentralized or centralized it is, that shows off all your assets. And then there's always, for all of these custodial wallets, the non-custodial option for folks who are savvier who want to go that route. Right. And that's how it's playing out in my mind right now. And I don't know what the timeline is, but
I think you're right. It's just going to take that innovation, and it's going to take people, you know, again, people trusting the space again, because there's a lot of distrust. You know, the COVID years, I guess, were really amazing for driving engagement in the world of Web3 and emerging tech. But I think, you know, it onboarded so many people so fast. The technology just hasn't caught up. So it's obviously going to shake a lot out. But I think, you know, over time, more and more innovators and smart people are going to build smart products. You should build that dating app. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think let POAP do it. You know what I mean? Like
it's true,
any one of these, like I think there's a really interesting, if you have the data about like who got their POAP, which, like, you know, assuming POAP wins, who knows, right? But like you go to concerts and you get your NFTs, like, you know, that's, you just build it on top of one of these like app minting protocols, basically.
No, it's true. I mean, it's smart. There's more and more use cases. They have to be simpler. I'm with you. I hope it happens sooner, but my over under is 2 years.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And you know, when you think about it, like the last crypto winter was what, 2 or 3 years, right? Like this stuff does take time, and it's you know, it is what it is. Okay, Nick Adler, thank you so much for joining me. Folks can go check out Mintage, and really appreciate you taking the time.
No problem. And I want to have you on the Fashion FUD spaces. So let's find a day that works, and we'll keep chopping it up. This is fun. I really appreciate having you.
I'm not a fashion expert, but I'll learn it up.
But you know what the beauty of it is, and I'll see before it goes that that's the kind of fun part about this whole space is we started that as a little spaces to hang and chop it up with our friends about, you know, what Mintage was and some emerging street trends and some Web3 stuff. And then, you know, every week we got more and more guests that we really wanted to speak to. And now, you know, the topic itself, like to touch on what do you think is the future here? But really at the end of the day, we're talking just about, I think it's culture and Web3 and where it's combined. So I think you can speak to that.
Well, I can talk that. Yeah,
yes,
all day.
Let's go.
All right, Nick, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Overpriced JPEGs. If you liked this conversation, if you liked this episode, please go ahead and hit subscribe. It helps me out, it helps the show out, and it means you will get alerts and updates when we post new content. Thanks again.